spam, immersed in 30 litres, 8 gallons of water. Natalia was able to get water from the plant's industrial tanks. That's all they had to eat at the besieged steelworks, so everyone was permanently hungry. Every day, every second, could have been their last. The people who got out of there alive had various culinary requests. Some of them wanted pizza, while others longed for sushi or a juicy steak. The first thing Natalia ate was a slice of bread and butter. Just like the women who survived the Great Famine, who still think of a plain piece of bread as the greatest treat they can imagine. So, people's tastes don't change when they've been to hell and back. Nor does politics change in Russia, the country that has built its power with a knife and fork, and famine. As I write this, Putin is trying to pressure other countries into giving him a free hand in the war against Ukraine by threatening to prevent ships carrying Ukrainian grain from leaving their ports. If the ships don't sail, many countries in Africa and the Middle East will risk experiencing famine. Russia is deliberately blackmailing the world. Either you meet us halfway, or more people will die of hunger, not just in Ukraine, but also the world over. This book explains why it's in Russia, of all places, that a regime could come up with such a diabolical idea. But there is a glimmer of hope. Following each of Russia's interventions, Putin never refers to the war in Ukraine as a war, but insists on calling it brotherly intervention. The blinders imposed by propaganda have fallen from the eyes of the Russians. That's what's happened to Mama Nina, the cook you'll meet in the chapter about the war against Afghanistan. Only there did she realize she'd been conned by the politicians. And millions of Soviet citizens came to have the same realization. I'm certain the same thing will happen this time too. By attacking Ukraine, Putin has made a major error, one that might cost him his power, or even his life. For many years it has not been the people in the streets who have overthrown Russia's dictators, but palace coteries, including members of the staff, bodyguards, cooks and chauffeurs. Perhaps there's already a cook at the Kremlin who's going to add a few drops of poison to Putin's soup, whether it's borscht, shchi, or uka. I hope one day I'll have the chance to ask them what kind of soup it was. Introduction. All at once, the smells of gasoline, fruit wine, and partly digested fried fish hit my nostrils. The gasoline was coming from a cutter that had headed out to sea around an hour ago, and the wine and fish must have been from the stomach of the drunken janitor who had thrown up under my window. There I lay in bed, still half asleep, listening to the roar of the Black Sea and watching some policemen representing the Republic of Abkhazia, a self-proclaimed orphan of the Soviet Union, recognized only by Russia, as they searched my room. In the doorway stood the flustered manager of the holiday resort, where I was perching for the night, repeating, not exactly to me, and not exactly to the policeman, "Not meant to be here. I don't know how he got here." He was telling the truth. He didn't know. So, for the second or third time, I explained that I'd arrived late at night, that the drunken janitor, the same man who would later sing bawdy songs in Russian, and later still vomit under my window, had let me in, and said I should go to bed, that we'd settle up in the morning. When the police found nothing suspicious on me, it started to dawn on the manager that he'd made a mistake and set the functionaries on an innocent man. Luckily, the policemen let it drop. They made some jokes, took a few Russian rubles off me for a cup of tea, and were gone. I was left with the manager, who was feeling pretty stupid. He made a coffee in a small pot, first for me and then for himself, and we drank it in silence, while he wondered whether to try to placate me. He decided to give it a try and offered me a glass of chacha, a very strong spirit made of grapes, to go with my coffee. I refused it because it was 7 in the morning. Then, out of the blue, he asked if I knew where we were. "In New Athos, in Abkhazia," I replied, yawning. But the manager violently shook his head.